Cinematic bravura now on FilmFour. Critic Jonathan Romney introduces Jean-Luc Godard's 1982 masterpiece, Passion.
Jean-Luc Godard was absent from mainstream cinema for much of the 70s, a decade which he devoted largely to experiments in film and video. He returned with Sauve qui peut, a film which set the benchmark for his 80s work, more lyrical than before and visually in keeping with the aesthetic values you'd expect from upmarket art cinema. However, these films were just as complex as before, with a new interest in the tension between art and the power structures that allow it to happen. The 1982 film Passion is, like Le Mépris in 1963, a film about making a film, or rather in this case, not making a film. The central figure is a Polish director named Jerzy, played by Jerzy Radziwiłowicz, star of Andrzej Wajda's Man of Iron and Man of Marble.
C'est qui plonge dans la lumière et le retentissement de ce que submerge la nuit.
It's never entirely clear what sort of film Jerzy is making. It doesn't have a story, much to the disgust of his producer and financiers, and it involves elaborate living recreations of famous paintings by the likes of Goya, Delacroix and El Greco. To achieve this, Jerzy hires extras from a nearby factory run by Michel Piccoli. As with so much of Godard's fiction work of the 80s and 90s, there are so many characters here that we're never entirely sure who's who. And one thing that is clear is that Godard is drawing our attention to a particular point about the image, which may seem obvious, but has complex ramifications. Film isn't the same as painting. You can point a camera at the sky, as Godard does in his opening shot, and get an instant image which, in theory, costs little. But to paint the sky requires a whole different level of effort and skill. However, cinematography isn't that simple either. Film costs money. Someone has to finance you to put a picture of the sky on a cinema screen. And you need the skills of a cinematographer to get the sky that you want. Taking that problem to a higher level, imagine how much more difficult it is to recreate photographically a Delacroix painting, to get the extras in place, to recreate the textures of the fabric and the complexities of the light on different surfaces. You may be able to do it for a split second, but what if your models, your cast, fail to hold still because they're not being paid enough? What looks at first sight like a very abstract aesthetic debate begins to raise all sorts of questions. Jerzy, the artist, proves to be as compromised and exploitative a boss as the factory owner. On the level of images, this is perhaps Godard's most elegant and beautiful film. It's clear he wants us to perceive it as a typical art film in order to confound our expectations and make us consider the process of producing expensive images. The image is certainly extraordinary, and not just in the painting sequences. This was Godard's first film for 16 years with Raoul Coutard, the cinematographer of his early work. 4 other cameramen had already turned the job down due to Godard's lighting demands.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que cette histoire, monsieur Coutard?
Il n'y a pas d'histoire. Tout est correctement éclairé, de gauche à droite, un peu de haut en bas, un peu d'avant en arrière. Ce n'est pas une ronde de nuit, mais une ronde de jour, éclairée par un soleil déjà bas sur l'horizon.
Passion is very much the story of the light in which it's shot. The elaborate artificial lighting of the studio, the cheap electric lights of the hotel, the daylight that filters into interiors. And sometimes we become aware of how different types of light change the dimensions of the images at which we're looking. You don't need to know about art history to appreciate Passion, just eyes to appreciate the way Godard manipulates the world within the frame.